Before I call the meeting to order, I'd just like to say a few things. The Seminole County Board of Commissioners meeting will allow the public to participate in both in-person and temporarily by utilizing virtual communications media technology. The meeting may be viewed on SGTV channel, on YouTube, and by registering to participate in the Zoom webinar. Interested parties may register in advance of the Board of County Commissioners meeting, so you're already late if you wanted to do that, by registering on the Board's County Commissioner webpage and scrolling down to the webinar registration link. After registering, parties will receive a confirmation email containing information regarding how to join the webinar. So if you're on TV and want to join us by webinar, please go ahead and do that. If you're unable to join us via computer or online, interested parties should call 407-665-0808 for additional information on how to participate via telephone. Please silence all cell phones and electronic devices and adhere to all social distancing and face cover requirements. With that, if everybody's ready, we're going to call the meeting to order, and I'm going to ask Dr. Walt Person of the Sanford Church of Christ to give the invocation. Dr. Pearson.
Thank you. Would you pray with me? I'll be praying in the name of Jesus, so if you pray to another source in your life, please join me at the end by praying to that source. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for the day of life, and we're grateful, Father, for this commission. We're grateful to have this wonderful community that we live in. We're grateful, Father, for the freedoms that we enjoy in this land because of those who have been able to serve to give us that right and to keep it alive within our country. We ask that you guide with wisdom and discernment all the decisions that are made. Father, that you would bless the families and all their activities so that they might be able to enjoy life as well as serve in this capacity in our community. We thank you, Father, for Jesus. We thank you for our hope of salvation. It's in Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. And ladies and gentlemen, if I could just have a moment, I would ask you all to please ask our, and she does not know this, but recognizing our employee, or he does not know this, recognizing our employee who received the U.S. Army Bronze Star Medal recipient, Victor Gayton. Victor, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Come on up to the front, and if you would, please, sir. Thank you.
Nothing like a surprise.
I think he knows the Pledge of Allegiance.
I've said it once or twice. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Victor, we will honor you later, but we just feel that you need that recognition, and we are very, very proud of you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin the meeting, and we will have a number of proclamations, awards, and presentations. First, a resolution recognizing Private First Class Mary Ingracia from the United States Army as Seminole County September Veteran of the Month. And I would ask Commissioner Lockhart to read that proclamation.
Thank you. Commissioners, it is my privilege to move the following proclamation. Whereas the brave men and women of our Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Coast Guard, and Space Force demonstrate a resolute spirit and unmatched selflessness, reminding us there are few things more American than giving of ourselves to make a difference in the lives of others. And whereas throughout our country's history, generations of service members have answered the call to leave their families, their jobs, and put their futures and even their lives on the line to valiantly defend our nation. And whereas for many service members, the sacrifice has ended in permanent injury or death, yet their spirit remains in the continued preservation of our freedoms and the promise of liberty. And whereas there are more than 30,000 living veterans in Seminole County who served our nation in times of peace and war, by their service they kept America strong. And whereas Private First Class Maria Ingracia joined the Army in February 1976 and attended basic training at Fort McClellan in Anniston, Alabama. And whereas Private First Class Mary Ingracia is very active in the Veterans of Foreign Wars and American Legion posts. She has planned numerous benefits for severely injured servicemen, all of whom are either double or triple amputees. She has worked in conjunction with the Semper Fidelis America and the Seminole County Sheriff's Office to ensure their service members are recognized. And whereas Private First Class Mary Ingracia has made significant contributions to the veterans of Seminole County, as well as Central Florida, and those presently serving in the United States military. She is currently volunteering with the City of Oviedo Police and Fire Departments to place flags into a replica of the Twin Towers in memory of those that died on September 11th, 2001. And whereas Private First Class Maria Ingracia also teaches children of all ages to fold miniature American flags into lapel pins for veterans, service members, and Gold Star families as a token of appreciation. Many years ago, she was given the name Navy Mom Mary from a commanding officer in the Navy and is affectionately known as that throughout the veterans community. Whereas Private First Class Mary Ingracia has brought great credit and distinction upon herself, the United States of America, the United States Army, and Seminole County. And now therefore be it resolved that we, the Board of County Commissioners of Seminole County, Florida, express our gratitude, admiration, and respect for Private First Class Mary Ingracia for her outstanding service to the United States Army and residents of Seminole County. Be it further resolved that this resolution be presented to Private First Class Mary Ingracia, along with our sincere congratulations and recognition as Seminole County's Veteran of the Month, adopted this 28th day of September 2021.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or debate? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Mary?
Can I give each of you something? These are the things that each of you to me.
That's an indelible mark on my memory.
Would you like to?
Thank you, God.
First of all, I'm honored for being nominated. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for approving it. Well, I'm very proud that I've served my country. I'm very proud of what I've continued to do afterwards even more, because I've learned that the American flag, which I wear on my chest every single day, everywhere I go, I teach the children. I teach to help the Gold Stars. My flags have gone all over the nation. I mean, all over to law enforcement offices. I send them to police. I send them to firemen. I send them everywhere that they're willing to go. And, you know, it's what I've done. While I'm proud to serve my country, those days are long gone. I'll always be an American, always be proud to raise my hand and salute, but I'm even prouder of those that have followed me now. And Andrea knows me, she's seen me out there. I don't lie, I'm out there. I'm promoting the flag to anybody who will. If you don't see it on my chest, it's because somebody loved it and I took it off and gave it to them. And I continue to. I'm reaching with, I'm going to end. I got a request to present 250 to the Port St. Lucie Police Department. And I drove down there, my husband and I, with the blue line flags on the flags. The chief of police was so touched by them. He went to his council, I guess, or the mayor, or whoever it was, to seek permission to have these flags with the blue line flag made part of the policeman's uniform. And that makes me proud, because that means that, yes, people do honor the flag and they love it. And the more I do, the more I can do to do it, the better off I will be. So I will see you guys at Memorial Day again next year, and I will continue to hand these flags out because people are wanting them. People are seeing me. I know you're the flag lady. Yes, I am. God bless America, and thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. We're more proud of you than you are of us, trust me. Thank you. Commissioner Delory will now read a proclamation proclaiming the month of September as Hunger Action Month. Commissioner Delory.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Proclamation of the Seminole County Board of County Commissioners proclaiming the month of September 2021 as Hunger Action Month in Seminole County. Whereas Seminole County is committed to taking the steps to raise awareness about the needs to combat hunger in every part of our county. And whereas Seminole County has committed to continue working with Second Harvest Food Bank of Central Florida in educating the people about the roles and importance of food banks in addressing hunger and raising awareness of the needs to devote more resources and attention to hunger issues. And whereas more than 54,800 residents in Seminole County rely on food provided by members of the Second Harvest Food Bank of Central Florida annually through 42 pantries. Whereas members of the Second Harvest Food Bank of Central Florida distribute more than 99.1 million meals to 6 counties served in the area of Central Florida in 2020 through its network of food pantries, soup kitchens, shelters, and community organizations. And whereas the month of September has been designated as Hunger Action Month in order to bring attention to food insecurity in our community, to engage the public in action, including volunteer shifts, social media shares, donations, and to end hunger, one helping at a time. And now, therefore, we proclaim that we, the Board of County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim September 2021 as Hunger Action Month in Seminole County. We further proclaim that this proclamation be presented to Second Harvest Food Bank, along with our sincere gratitude and service provided to Seminole County residents, adopted as 28th day of September 2021.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Commissioner Delory, is there someone here that
Yes,
will
there
read?
is. May we all go down?
Yep. I'm sorry, not one more. I'm sorry. I'm hopping along. So, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Sure. I'll say Mary was a hard act to follow, but thank you guys so much for the recognition of Hunger Action Month. And here in Seminole County, it's near dear to my heart. I'm an Oviedo resident, but on behalf of the board of Second Harvest and the staff, we really appreciate your recognition. And we do help over 50,000 of our residents here annually provide food for their families. We have great pantries here, and if you'd like more information on Second Harvest, check us out online. It's feedhopenow.org. You can volunteer, donate, or even help raise awareness through doing a virtual food drive. So thank you so much for your support, and we'll hopefully be back next year. So.
Thank you.
I wanted to thank Commissioner Delory for bringing that to our attention. He was the commissioner that requested that as the month. Thank you. We now have a proclamation proclaiming October 3rd through the 9th as Fire Prevention Week in Seminole County. It's an annual proclamation that we do, and we would ask Commissioner Herr to do the proclamation, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I move the following proclamation of the Seminole County Board of County Commissioners, proclaiming October 3rd through the 9th, 2021, Fire Prevention Week in Seminole County, Florida. Whereas Seminole County is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all residents and visitors in Seminole County, and whereas home fires kill more than 2,770 people in the United States each year, according to the National Fire Protection Association, and fire departments in the United States respond to nearly 34,000 home fires annually. And whereas smoke alarms sense smoke well before you can, alerting you to the danger in the event of a fire in which you may have as little as 2 minutes to escape safely. And whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in home fires in half. And whereas residents should be sure everyone in the home understands the sounds of the alarms and knows how to respond. And whereas Seminole County residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and more likely to survive a fire. And whereas Seminole County residents should make sure their smoke and carbon monoxide alarms meet the needs of all of their family members, including those with sensory or physical disabilities. And whereas Seminole County first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrences of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas the 2021 Fire Prevention Week theme, Learn the Sounds of Fire Safety, effectively serves to remind us it is important to learn the different sounds of smoke and carbon monoxide alarms. Now therefore be it proclaimed that Seminole County Board of County Commissioners proclaims October 3rd through the 9th, 2021 as Fire Prevention Week, and urges everyone in Seminole County to check their smoke and carbon monoxide alarms and to plan and practice their home fire escape plans. Adopted this 28th day of September, 2021.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Chief and other members of the fire department, if you'd like to come up, we'd love to have a photo with you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Hard to shake everybody's hand, so thank you. Keep doing what you're doing.
Mine first, and then I'll start to the car. Three to the two first. All set. Finish 3, 2, 1.
Thank you, guys. Chief, would you like to say a few words, sir?
I would. Certainly, thank you for the recognition for Fire Prevention Week, but I have a quick story. The other day, I was sitting with our Fire Marshal, Christina Diaz, and she asked me, she goes, "Do you think the county will ever love fire prevention?" And I look at her and I go, "No." I go, "But the way that we appreciate fire prevention on days like this, the way that we appreciate them when that sound of an alarm happens in somebody's home and that child is able to escape an imminent fire, the way that we appreciate fire prevention is when a business can stay open and those families can provide for those families over the long term. That's how we love fire prevention on a daily basis within this community. So thank you for that recognition.
Amen. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you very much, Chief. You don't know how much we all appreciate what you and certainly every firefighter in Seminole County does each and every day. Okay, the next and the last proclamation is actually an employee spotlight. So I believe that we have a little film that we're going to do prior to the proclamation. So roll it, please, Clint.
I kind of didn't know what I was getting into, like what I was going to experience.
From Seminole County Fire Department to Syria, firefighter Victor Gayton spent the last year away from his family, deployed overseas with the Army Reserves as a combat engineer, locating IEDs and clearing the path for movement. But that isn't all he did.
While I was over there is when they asked on base, they asked if anybody is medically trained or qualified, and I was like, well, I'm a fireman. And they were like, you want to join our Moscow team? And I said, yeah, absolutely. There was a loud siren on base. They would sound the alarm, and myself, the medics that were assigned to my platoon, we would dart out the door. So it felt really natural to me just because I was used to it from being here.
A natural response for a firefighter, even if the calls were nothing like he was used to at Station 23 in Seminole County.
Here, you know, we're ready to go and when we're called, and, you know, we don't know if we're going to roll on a broken toe because someone hit it on a bed, or, you know, if they were hit by a car, you know, God forbid. There, when the siren went off, it was like the worst thing. It was, we got to I treated multiple gunshot wounds, explosions, decapitations, people would lose extremities. This is where we were treating casualties. I did a Foley on that guy. I tell them, like, yeah, man, I was doing IVs all the time and stitching and doing all that stuff. They're like, they let you do that stuff? And like, it wasn't more of like a let, it was like, go do it.
And as his time in Syria came to an end, the 28-year-old was rewarded for his response to the siren with a Bronze Star, the fourth highest ranking award a service member can receive.
You hear about like guys getting Bronze Stars, like you watch war movies, or you hear about these guys doing like extraordinary things. At the time, I didn't feel like I was doing anything extraordinary, and then, you know, once my leadership were like, you're doing something outside of what you're supposed to be doing. You're here to look for IEDs and enemies, not doing treatment on, you know, partner nation forces and enemy prisoners of war and things like that. Then that's when it kind of all settled into me, like, hey man, you did something pretty cool here.
After nearly a one-year deployment, Gayton returns with a wealth of knowledge, experience, and a Bronze Star.
I miss you, baby.
And he's back home, where he belongs.
I know.
Fantastic.
Commissioner Zimbauer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's with great pleasure that I introduce this resolution on behalf of the Seminole County Board of County Commissioners, recognizing Seminole County Fire Department firefighter Victor Gayton as a U.S. Army Bronze Star Medal recipient.
Whereas Seminole County firefighter Victor Alexander Gayton has served in the Seminole County Fire Department since 2018 and currently serves at Station 23 on Howell Branch Road. And whereas firefighter Gayton is a Seminole County Public Schools graduate from Hagerty High School and earned his firefighter EMT schooling from Seminole State College. And whereas firefighter Gayton enlisted in the U.S. Army Reserves in 2016 and was deployed to Syria in May 2020 through April 2021. And whereas in Syria he served as a specialist in the U.S. Army and combat engineer in the 2nd Platoon, 689th Engineer Company, and his duties included route clearance, where he searched for and detected IEDs, bombs, and other hazards. And whereas Gayton's intellect and devotion to duty was instrumental in the overall success of the 689th Engineer Company's mission throughout Syria to provide freedom of maneuver, mobility, and survivability to the eastern Syria security area. And whereas Gayton's civilian medical education and experience as a Seminole County firefighter EMT was relied upon to bolster his team's treatment capabilities, where he assisted in the triage, treatment, and stabilization of 25 casualties, 1 enemy prisoner, and 17 mass casualty situations. And whereas for his bravery, expertise, and teamwork to the above and beyond his call of duty, Gayton was awarded the U.S. Army's Bronze Star Medal. Now there be it resolved that the Seminole County Board of County Commission does hereby recognize Seminole County firefighter Victor Gayton as a Bronze Star recipient of the U.S. Army. Be it further resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Seminole County, Florida, this resolution be spread upon the official minutes by the Clerk of the Circuit Court in and for Seminole County. Adopted this 28th day of September 2021.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously and with great honor.
All set? Do my first here in 3, 2, 1.
Feel free to sit.
Absolutely. I'm not too good at these. I'll try my best. I'd just like to say thanks. I'm extremely honored and humbled to receive this. And I was honored and humbled to receive the Bronze Star. I'm proud to have done what I did, and proud to serve this great community of Seminole County. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Thankful for my department and all their support that they've given me in my military career as I continue with my re-enlistment coming up next month, and also my career in the fire department. It was the best job in the world, and I'm proud to show other veterans the careers in public safety are beyond measure. And individuals like Miss May here who do what she does is, it's just, I'm proud of her. I'm proud of all the other veterans that serve this community as well. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner.
since we have Miss Mary here, so Miss Mary, before you go, I think we have a photo up. If we could have our Bronze Star recipient be pinned by Miss Mary, that would be super special.
Fantastic idea.
I would be honored.
Victor, I think you're going to be pinned.
Uniform, Chief?
Don't hurt him now.
First and foremost. Flags always placed over the heart with never anything over, so we put it above his badge. He's so tall. Hey. Come on, son, this is not only, you stay still. I wanted to pin you, did you get one?
Yes,
Sir.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
You know how to get a hold of me, Andrew, if anybody's... I got a gold stars coming up for the monument at Bushnell. They're erecting a gold star monument, the first one for this area, and the second in the National Cemetery. So it's an honor, but I gotta go,
Great.
ladies and gentlemen.
God bless.
Got a lot to do, so-
Thank you.
Mary, we appreciate everything you do. Now, I can see you do a lot. Thank you very much.
Memorial Day?
Yes,
I don't
ma'am.
know if you guys remember, but a lot of Seminole County was very honored to receive them. I give two versions down. One for veterans who don't need an explanation. The other one is a card asking everybody to wear it on Memorial Day to remember that there's nothing happy about that day. God bless. Have a wonderful day, folks.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Mary. We certainly have wonderful and interesting characters in Seminole County.
It's a great community.
Yes, it is. Everyone, public participation and pursuant to Florida law, the public has the right to be heard on all propositions, except when the county commission is acting on ministerial or emergency matters or conducting a meeting exempt from section 286.011 of the Florida statutes. Public comment time on propositions shall be 3 minutes for individuals and 6 minutes for specific group representatives. The right to be heard should, during quasi-judicial hearings is governed by Florida law. The public will be provided the opportunity to be heard on non-agenda matters. At the end of the meeting, proper decorum will be observed. And ladies and gentlemen, before we go into the consent agenda, I think all of us recognize and understand that we have received this week the letter of resignation from our county manager, effective in December. We will bring, I just wanted to make sure for everybody that we will bring this up in the morning after all the reports and before we recess for the afternoon, so that everybody understands the timing. So with that, we have a consent agenda, 5 through 16 and 23 through 26. Is there anyone that wishes to pull any specific item from that? Commissioner Herr?
I need to pull 5 for a clarification.
Pulling 5. I was going to do the same. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes?
I'd like to pull 11 and 13, please.
11 and 13. Anything else? Okay, with that, is there a motion?
So moved.
Move approval of the consent agenda. Is there a
Less-
second?
Less 5, 11, and 13.
Second.
And a second. Okay, now, public hearing. Is there any public comment on any of those items? Any of those items not pulled? Seeing none, is there any debate or discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, passes unanimously. We will now go to item number 5.
Good morning.
Commissioner Herr? go ahead. I mean, she was the one that pulled it. I'll let her go first, please.
Good morning. So I have a question regarding the letter, and we might want to have your consultant come up. The letter does clarify the issue that I brought to your attention during briefings. However, it says, Sun Life agrees to provide a 1224 claim basis and make a filing with Florida Insurance Department for eligible expenses incurred from 1/1 of 2010 through 12/31 of 2021. Spot on, that's awesome. And paid between 1/1 of 23 to 12/31 of 23. Policy year is 22, isn't it?
Correct, and that's for the run out for the current Symetra policy, which would cover 22.
Right, but we're buying a policy that covers us for 2022 with a run-out attached to that. So I would ask that you take this, so I think we can approve it for today, but we have to take this letter away and get it clarified. The policy is for 2022.
Correct.
That's it.
Okay, I just want to make sure that then you agree with what the commissioner is saying, correct?
Correct. So we'll get clarification on the plan year.
Fine. Is there anything else on item number 5 that anyone has before I accept a motion? I just wanted to point out as a question, but I believe that it's the fact, but I want to make sure it's on the record, that this new carrier, we're looking at a 33% reduction in savings from the current carrier?
Correct. On the
Sun
stop
Life.
loss, correct, yes.
And also on the Reliant Standard Life Insurance, we're looking at a $35,000 savings.
That is correct.
And also, we are, in part of this, we are doing what staff has requested of us, which is to allow them to pay, changing the timing of the payroll deduction so that they're paying when they're doing it, not in advance. Is that correct?
That's correct for the premiums. And for the record, Christina Brandolini, Chief Administrator of Human Resources. That is correct. We are recommending that the employee paid premiums will be paid the month that they're actually getting their benefit, which means that in December, there will be no premium deductions out of employees' pay for December. So we'll catch up, and then they'll start paying.
Christmas time.
Yes, exactly. So they'll start paying again in January for their January benefits.
So it sounds like there's 3 positive benefits of this proposal that you have before us. And with the clarification that Commissioner Herr has asked for, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion and also provide clarification before I make the motion. First of all, there's a thank you out to the clerk's office because it's been years that that's been being requested. So thank you, because it's, you have no idea the impact of that on new hires. It is significant, so the change is huge. And thank you to Christina and her team for the perseverance to get that done. The savings is on the stop-loss policy only, not the overall premium, so I don't want any confusion in the public record. And it is often the case that in a first-year stop-loss case, you see a significant savings, and then you see it wing back around in year 2 and year 3. So thanks to Tim Jex and the team, they're doing the appropriate reserving around that concept, so we're protected in the future. And with that, I'll move to approve item number 5.
Second.
Motion and second.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, the motion is to adopt the plan with the corrections that you noted, correct?
Correct. Thank you.
Is there anyone in the public that wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, is there any further discussion or debate by the commission? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. We will now go to 11. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's no doubt that our landfill operates very efficiently, and there's always a need to either replace equipment or purchase new equipment. What they're asking us to do is to talk about a buyout for our dozers and some of our big heavy equipment in the landfill. Well, my issue here today is not the spending of the $5 million. The issue that I have here is we're supposed to be getting a master plan on our solid waste, and for some reason it's taken quite a bit of time. And I don't want to develop a master plan around expenditures. I want to develop a master plan that the expenditures are in. And I really believe this is the wrong way to do it, and that's where I have a problem. I want to make sure that whatever the master plan is, that we're spending the citizens' money most effectively, accounting for potential rate increases, potential new equipment, whatever the issue is. But it's kind of hard to spend $5 million without understanding what's going to happen next year and the years coming out without having a master plan. By approving this, we're developing a master plan around expenditures, not expenditures around a master plan. And that's my issue.
Okay, County Manager, would you like to respond to that, or wish the staff to respond to that?
For the record, Terry McHugh, Director, Environmental Services Department. So with me, depending upon the level of detailed response, I have David Salinas, who is our landfill operations manager. And also online, I have Keith Howard, the lead of our solid waste consulting master plan team from HDR. But I'm hoping that we're not going to need to get to that level of detail to be able to address your question. The purchase of equipment, so we're at the end of the lease term of equipment from Caterpillar. And routinely, every 4 years or so, we enter to a new agreement, either we lease or we purchase. Our master planning team, along with staff, surveyed our operations, watched us use the equipment, made a determination that some of the equipment that we have is undersized for our needs currently. And that conclusion was backed up through site visits throughout the state. And we've proceeded to, so once we've identified the type of equipment that we need, then we go on to what's the lowest cost alternative to obtain this equipment. So we worked with Resource Management to do a net present value analysis, which determined that purchasing this necessary equipment saves our citizens a little over $500,000. So stated differently in terms from a master plan that's forthcoming, the decision that's before you today is to spend $5 million today to purchase equipment, or to spend $5.5 million to lease similar equipment over the same time frame. The delta between these two options leans towards not just the plus $500,000 that's a benefit to our citizens by purchasing, it also has only positive ramifications on long-term planning.
Mr. Chairman, there's no doubt that by doing the purchase, you're going to save money. I mean, it's just, you're borrowing, not borrowing. I get that. But without even knowing what the framework of the master plan is, it's kind of hard to see in the future without a true roadmap. And that's why I'm questioning why not even seeing a potential roadmap of what the big purchase is going to be with the master plan. Yes, it does save money, but without understanding or having when the projection is of what that roadmap is, it's kind of hard to spend big dollars for the future without knowing what that future is going to be.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you, and I appreciate Commissioner Delary pulling this because I have some inquiries on this matter as well. I was looking for a matrix, cost matrix. You know, we've heard this is a savings to the taxpayer, but what I haven't seen is any cost of ownership per hour on this equipment over that 5-year time frame. As you're probably aware, Caterpillar sets up their leases based on an ownership algorithm where they take care of certain services and maintenance and warranty items, whereas once we purchase it, we have a certain amount of warranty, then we pick up all the expenditures. And it doesn't take much to spend $100,000 on a bulldozer. You can do that in an afternoon. What kind of analysis did we do of cost of ownership over that same 5-year period?
I'll speak in general terms before deferring to David Salinas and have David come up. But in general, for this current Caterpillar lease, maintenance costs that the county experienced were much higher than we anticipated. So whether the county didn't understand the terms of the lease when it was signed, we experienced much more costs from Caterpillar than for repairs that we originally thought that Caterpillar should have picked up.
No, I understood.
Yeah,
I've
okay.
seen them.
Yes, you have.
I've gone through the documents.
Okay.
I was shocked, but.
Right, yes.
But what have we done moving forward? What's before us today?
So moving forward today, we've included TM&R as part of the purchase agreement. So the various manufacturers will be responsible for all the maintenance other than oil changes. I believe that's about the full extent of our fleet involvement.
Okay.
And furthermore, that I know that the price that we had originally budgeted for it, I think the initial estimate that would cost around $500, it came in a little over $300,000 a year.
Over the 5-year period?
Per year over the 5-year period, yes.
Okay,
That's my
great.
understanding.
Great. Thank you.
Would you like more detail? I can bring Mr. Salinas up. Or?
No, that's good.
Okay.
I think I followed you pretty good there.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Hurd?
Are you working under a current master plan?
The Solid Waste Division has never done a master plan, so this will be the first one we've done.
And so I think since I've gotten here, I've known when it's due, right? It's soon, it's coming soon.
Yes, by the end of the calendar year, yes.
By the end of the calendar year. But as I understand it, we're sitting in this situation today with a question at hand that needs to be resolved before the anticipated master plan.
That is our recommendation, yes.
That is our recommendation, or that is our situation?
That is our situation, yes.
Okay, those are two different things. So the master plan is in progress.
Yes.
You're clearly, at least partially, way through it. Do you see anything that would come out in the master plan that would change the decision that we're making today?
I do not.
Okay. That's it, Chairman.
Further questions?
Just
Further
just for the record and
Commissioner-
further response.
yes, County Manager.
In further response to Commissioner Hur's question, the lease on this equipment expires October 29th.
Yeah.
So that's why we're in this time situation.
That's a beautiful clarification. Thank you.
Further comments? Seeing none, is there anyone in the public that wishes to speak on this before we take action? Seeing none, is there any motion or discussion, further discussion? Commissioner Hurd.
I'm prepared to make a motion to move forward with this item as stated, and appreciate that it was brought up with the added importance of delivering the master plan on time as well.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Is there discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Passes 4-1. Thank you very much, everyone. We are now on item number 13. Commissioner Delory.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Chairman, can I take a 5-minute recess?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
We're taking a 5-minute recess, everyone. We'll be back. Well, actually, let's undetermined amount of time. Let's wait until he has the time for the phone
Don't go
call.
anywhere.
We'll take a recess.
Bleach. That's
Yes.
basically what it is.
Yes.
What's the alternatives of incurring this almost factor of 2 cost from what you've told me through the email? 200%.
Yeah, so in dollar terms, looking at our actual usage from calendar year 21, so we've got 11 out of the 12 months out. If we applied the new proposed cost to the current cost, it's a little over $10,300 a month on average. Now, projections are projections, so what this means for next year, it might be a little different than that, but that's the ballpark that we're talking about as far as the delta. Now, what we did to secure the best cost when the current vendor's renewal period expires early October. They sent us a letter about a little over 2 months ago informing us of this rate increase. And Markley and the team at purchasing sought informal bids from other vendors to see if that's truly where the market was. And these informal bids from other vendors were even higher than the proposed rate. So we're confident that the secured amount, that this offer is the best deal that we can obtain for our customers.
Again, Mr. Chairman, the reason why I pulled this is that there's another master plan that we're expecting pretty soon, and I just want to make sure that we're highlighting that it's coming soon. But the cost of bleach, I believe, is going up substantially, and I know that there's potentially other ways to do it that I'm hoping is going to be brought out in the master plan, because I know in the 90s, in the early 2000s, people used to do on-site manufacturing, and they opted not to do it because of the cost was so cheaper to buy it from vendors. But since the cost is going up so much higher, I would hope that the master plan would actually be looking at stuff along those lines.
Now, I doubt that that would be specifically in this master plan, but however, that is an answer that I can address by the second October meeting, which I'll be presenting to you the master plan reports. So I'll include that discussion.
Are there further questions of staff or further comments on this issue? Before we make any action, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on item number 13? Seeing none, what is the commission's?
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you. Move approval and a second. Any further discussion on the item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Passes 4-1. Thank you. I think the one thing, Terry, there you are. The one thing that I think you've gotten out of this is that this commission, and we thank Commissioner Delory for bringing it further to our attention. I think we're all aware that we're looking forward and with anticipation for these master plans.
As am I.
If there's anything that is in delay in any of these, we would like to know, not at a commission meeting, but directly. if you
Understood.
could.
And, Mr. Chairman, I would
Yes, Commissioner.
want to say that, and Terry, don't take my vote, anything against you or your department. I think you're all doing a great job, but it's kind of hard to look into the future without seeing a master plan. I would look forward to, before you bring it to the board, to actually get a briefing,
Great.
so I can understand it in more detail.
I certainly plan to do that.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much. And County Manager, I think you have the direction that we're asking for, Terry. Thank you. All right, we're on item number 17, County Attorney's Agenda, First National Bank of America and Rose Acceptance. Our attorney.
Mr. Chairman, it's a simple settlement of a failure to register a foreclosed property. The special magistrate issued an order. Basically, the case is going to settle for the $200 amount. When this came to my attention, the program's working fairly well. These type of settlements, I'll ask later on in a future meeting for the authority to settle these kind of small settlements.
County Attorney's Consent Agenda, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, move to approve consent agenda number item 17 is presented.
Second.
Motion seconded, discussion, all in favor? Yes,
Sorry.
discussion.
Under discussion. Two things. I wanted to see if we could, if the motioner and seconder would be willing to add that we are going to permit the county attorney to handle these without coming to the board.
That's why I said as
Future?
presented us today. So I
Oh.
would assume that was taking
That was
place.
including
but
that.
For
For
clarification,
clarification? Okay,
I will
great.
put that into my motion.
Fantastic.
Agreed.
And then do we need public comment on this item?
Oh, sorry, we have this consent agenda. Does anybody have any public comment on this particular item, number 17? Seeing none, now we will vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any further discussion by the board? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, passes unanimously. We're now going to the constitutional officers' consent agenda and the clerk's office.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve item number 18 is presented.
Second.
Motion and seconded. And to be most cautious, I'm going to say, does anybody want to speak on this item?
Well, we can consider this ministerial if you like.
Grant, how about you?
No comment.
Okay. Seeing that we got everybody, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes unanimously. We are now on item number 19, excuse me, and that is the county manager and staff's presentations, and we are at the Hanson Sustainability Update, and
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Just
sir.
for clarifications, should we be holding our questions towards the end or ask questions as they?
I'm going to ask the presenter that and say, would you rather have your presentation unabated and then questions, or would you mind being us interrupting during your thing? Let's do the presentation, and we'll hold the questions until the end. It looks like that's what you would.
During would be fine, sir, but we can wait.
Okay, that's what we'll do.
Okay,
And
great.
please go ahead, sir. Mr. Bradford.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Frank Consoli, the project manager for the sustainability consultant. I have with us today to do a presentation by Hanson Professional Services, and I turn it over to Mr. Bill Bradford.
Mr. Bradford.
Good morning and thank you. I'm Bill Bradford. I'm Senior Vice President with Hanson Professional Services, and I'm also the Principal in charge of Energy, Sustainability, and Resiliency. When we first were awarded this contract, we met with the county administrator, and a number of other people, and we were told that the priority number one was the review of the 5 points and for energy and sustainability. So we looked at that. We received 60% documents on the annex building, which is a little bit over 100,000 square feet. We received 90% documents on the central energy plant, and then we also received the documents which were getting ready to go out for bid for the parking garage. Immediately prior to submitting our report on July 23rd, we received a request to also review some solar photovoltaic for the roof of the annex building. So we did that as well. Our review of the preliminary documents came up with a number of recommendations. We looked at the central energy plant, which initially consisted of 4 1,100-ton chillers, as well as the associated cooling towers, and each of the pumps, or each of the chillers has a chill water pump and a condenser water pump. We also looked at the phasing schedule, which is the inset graphic on the right, and you can see that Phase 1A consists of the annex, the central energy plant, and hooking that up, and that has a total of 331, I can't quite see it, but 331 tons of the 4,400 ton capacity. We looked also at Phase 1B, which includes a number of other buildings, and that raises it to just under 2,500 tons. This was based upon the design criteria package that we received, and so we were flying based upon that information. And then Phase 3 raised it up to about 3,700 tons. Still not reaching the 4,400 tons of capacity. When we looked at that, we compared that, and we anticipate that based on this schedule, there are going to be a number of chillers and a number of cooling towers and pumps that have a warranty for when they are first installed, and then that warranty could and will expire on many of the pieces of equipment by the time they're really used. We also looked at the added cost of the equipment for maintenance if that equipment is not used and what that would be, and then we looked at the need to establish specific operation schedules so the excess equipment can be operated on a regular basis and not degrade. One of the other things we looked at was the net present value of that additional equipment and what you could do with that money if you used it and spent it later as opposed to coming up with the dollars now. Secondly, we looked at the winter load in Phase 1A, and that's in the range of 70 to 90 tons of chiller, and that would be supplied by 1,100-ton chiller. And that would be difficult to step down to supply that load under the low load conditions. This would require a winter sequence mode to minimize the chiller starts and stops. We also looked at the low load conditions during Phase 1A and the winter load for all the phases, and this could create potential issues with the chillers if they're not operated frequently enough and do not receive adequate water treatment, and that could lead to unnecessarily fouling of the equipment, the chiller tubes, and the information and the equipment itself. One of the other things we looked at was solar options for the annex building. And this is what I mentioned that we received on July 20th before the 23rd submittal of the report. The design build team had been looking at this, and we were asked to evaluate. And we were told to use $2.04 per watt and $2.31 per watt, respectively, for a ballasted system, which would be on the roof and would be ballasted to keep it from blowing away. And the higher number would be for a system that was on a frame that was above the roof. When we based on that information, we found it would be a payback of roughly 11 to 24 years of return on investment, and that's respectively for the ballasted and the frame. Because of the high cost and the low return on investment for this, it was decided the county would not be installing photovoltaic solar on the roof of the annex building. However, during our review with the county and the design build team, we also discussed the possibility of putting solar in either the parking area along State Road 1792 or in Lake Lily. And if it was along State Road 1792, it would be on a frame that would be above the parking, provide shade, and that would be a little bit more cost per watt. If it was in Lake Lily, this would be a floating system, and these would both be a demonstration project. And so we brought this to the attention of the design build team and also for the county, that if you're undertaking an energy and sustainability master plan, you may want to look at this as a demonstration project for the citizens to see what the county is doing. The third thing we looked at was electrical vehicle charging. And these are just some of the points, but the electrical vehicle charging we looked at, in the annex, on the east side of the annex, there are approximately 5 spots for electrical vehicle charging, and this is per the code, or about per the code is my understanding. And we also looked, and parking garage also has about 5 spots. There's an executive order 14037, which was signed this summer, that sets a goal for 50% of passenger cars and new passenger cars and new light-duty trucks sold in 2030 to be zero-emission vehicle. This is going to increase the need for EV charging as the county, along with your employees, along with your own fleet, and as long as the customers who are coming to this have the need for increased EV charging. It was agreed with that the designers will make the annex and the parking garage EV ready or future ready. And this will consist of running empty conduit systems into the parking lot so that at a later date, wiring and power can be pulled out into the parking and the modular EV charging units can be installed. It was also decided that for the power, that the electrical engineers would increase and put in space for another panel that would serve the EV charging as well. And so this was to make it future ready. We finally looked at what we're finally presenting today was the condensate return and capture. The central energy plant for this project is up in the northeast side, and you can see it in the proximity. When the central energy plant is operating at full load, it will be using over 400 gallons per minute in makeup water for the cooling towers. We anticipate the cost of water is going to be increasing. We anticipate there will be scarcity of water, and so to anticipate that, each of the air handling units in the buildings are creating condensate from the drains. That is coming down to a central point and going to waste. Our recommendation was to look at the potential of piping that condensate back to the central energy plant and using that as makeup water for the plant itself. We talked about it in detail. It was decided that by the design build team and the county that it was too expensive at this point to do so. So our recommendation was to go ahead and put a T in the lines as they're coming out of the building, as well as a valve, so that at a later date, if the decision was made to recapture this water, you would be able to do this and pump it back to the plant for the makeup water. We had a number of other recommendations and topics that we reviewed. one of which was microgrid. And we looked at if the county had the need to island or isolate this from this area from the grid, overall grid. It was decided they did not have the need to do so. You do have emergency generators there. You do have a number of other things that can be used, but we looked at that. We also looked at the potential of battery storage for this area, and if that is needed. If you're going to microgrid, we would recommend battery storage. We met with Florida Power and Light. We also met with Duke Energy and talked to them. Florida Power and Light is responsible for this area and supplies power to 5 Points. They said we've got a capacity of over 20% more capacity for this area than is needed and really throughout the system. So we talked to them about battery storage, and then we also talked about uninterruptible power supply. You've got emergency generators in this project, and the emergency generators are going to pick up the systems and pick up the major pieces of equipment that needs to run. However, our recommendation was to also include an uninterruptible power supply and battery backup for the control systems that are providing for the building, primarily the annex, and future buildings as well. Many times it takes up to 30 minutes to reboot the control systems, so even if you've got the chill water, if you've got the utilities that are being supplied, you are without that. So we recommend going with a UPS system and battery backup for those as well. We looked at water conservation for plumbing systems. The designs included water-efficient faucets and flush valves, and so it looks like that is being taken care of. One of the things that we noticed is there were a lot of notes having to deal with water conservation for irrigation. However, nothing was shown on the documents. So we raised that question as to whether they were using cisterns, whether there was some other thing that we didn't see. And it turns out this is going to be provided with reclaimed water from the city of Sanford. So that was addressed. The building systems and material selection I overlooked, and we went through. These were 60% documents for the annex and 90% documents for the central energy plant. As you would expect with documents that are still being worked on, there were some things that contradicted each other. Things regarding the insulation values, regarding the shading coefficients of the glass. And so we ask about that. We ask about if life cycle cost analysis had been run for these different types of materials and what they came up with. And then on the other, we went through a review of the documents. We came in late, and so there are a lot of questions we had. The questions were a lot of things like, have you considered this? Have you looked at that? It was not, okay, this needs to be changed. That's not the way we approach it. We ask, have you considered? And with the central energy plant, we had 7 pages of review comments, and with the annex, we had 6 pages of review comments. These were sent to the design bill for them to respond, so we have a record. And now we have received the 100% documents for the central energy plant. They came in on Friday afternoon. We're awaiting the 100% documents for the annex. We'll go back through, we'll check on those comments, and we'll also go through what we looked at again and come up with other comments. The second phase of what we're looking at is work order number 2, which is the Energy Efficiency and Sustainability Roadmap. We based it upon the RFQ and what was stated in there. We met with the county, we met with a number of departments, and one of the things that we think you really need to start with is step 1 up here, is establish a baseline. There are a lot of questions we asked that there were no answers for at the moment. We also ask if there are energy and sustainability guidelines that the county uses with all of our projects, and we were told there really are none. So what we're recommending, and we submitted a proposal for step number 1 to establish a baseline and document the existing energy, greenhouse gas, and water baseline information. We met with the county administrator and staff as well as the project manager, and there were a number of questions, very good questions that they raised about things that had been slipped in by the different departments, and they were actually covered in the later steps. So we went back, revised our proposal, and resubmitted it. And so the step 1 proposal is in your hands. Then we recommend that we take that information and then revise and look at the following steps. We know that after we get that, we've got to survey best practices and latest technologies that are in use by other counties and cities. We need to quantify the anticipated efficiencies and come up with what your peer and aspirant groups are doing, and we need to measure ourselves against that. And then we need to establish the energy, water, and sustainability goals and develop a strategy for the future. The last thing on here is investigate and recommend a dashboard technology, and that's something we added in addition to the RFQ. And that is so that you will have the ability to measure and verify what savings you're receiving, what the reductions in energy, what the reductions in greenhouse gas and reduction of water are, and you'll be able to verify and report the benefits of the implemented measures.
That's great.
Questions? Commissioner Hurd.
We all know I love a dashboard, so I just want to say thank you for number 6, and add to the notion that not only are we measuring and verifying, but modifying as time goes by as appropriate, which is the whole reason for the dashboard. So I appreciate your presentation. I appreciate your patience during our briefings, and I appreciate that you're here.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
If I may, spent a lot of time on the chiller selection and the loading of the chillers. Should we put it by them all, or only put in what's needed? I think the approach of only putting in what needed is the right approach. I do know that the plans that are completed are, they meet code. There's nothing wrong with the plans, but I want to make sure we're putting in the right efficiency type of a chiller, because we're going to be living with these chillers for a number of years, and I'd like to make sure that, to see what the cost-benefit analysis would be to increase the chiller efficiency, to see if we'd be able to recoup that in years to come. So would that be appropriate to ask now or later, or how do we do this? Since we only discussed this when we're sitting up here.
Get it all out on the table now, if there are questions.
I plan on it. I got a couple more issues. I want to make sure that whatever chillers we're putting in, they are the right efficiency for however many years we're planning them to be there. Your information about the condenser recapturing, yes, I think is appropriate, since we're hopefully putting in a One Water initiative throughout all of Seminole County, and this would be fitting into that. But instead of just putting a T into the fitting and then ripping up the road, and let's find out exactly what that cost is about putting them in when you're putting in the chilled water lines. It's kind of, if it can be afforded, this would be the time to put it in, since we're ripping up the roads. Only spend that dollar one time for digging up that trench. And then with the cooling tower, and I know there is cooling tower recovery systems about saving water. I would love to see, I haven't heard anything about that from you, and I'd like to actually see that to understand, is that type of a system that cost-benefit analysis for actually see that to come back. Next item I have is you talked about loading the chillers to make sure we have enough loading. I know in this year's budget, we're actually paying for a new chiller to be put into the jail. That is an additional load. Instead of putting in another chiller, put that into the central energy plant. That'll actually help your issue about your low winter conditions and about the offloading of the chiller and getting a turn down effectively. We should be looking at that instead of paying for a new chiller to be put into the jail. Take that money, connect it to the central energy plant, and see what it costs to actually limp that chiller along for the next year and a half to 2 years. I think that's appropriate. And then, last but not least, is my favorite question, is the water pressure. I've been bringing this up for at least 3 years now, maybe 4. I want to make sure that we have enough water pressure throughout this entire complex. I've been told that someone's putting in a pump. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I don't know that information. I'd have to research it. Wade, do you know?
For what system, sir?
The domestic water, they're upsizing the line across the street to make sure we get adequate water pressure to this complex.
I believe the annex has a domestic water booster pump in the building itself. I would have to confirm that, but
Well, I'm talking about the whole complex.
I didn't see that, so I would have to look for that.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that if we're putting a pump in there, we're not causing another problem to the city of Sanford, because it's not our water system. We may want to loop it to actually get multiple feeds, give redundancy. I want to make sure that that's addressed.
We've been having ongoing talks with the city of Sanford about the.
Well, I understand that,
about
but
water supply to
it's
this
not
site.
their project, it's our project. We should be helping them because it's our complex. I don't want to, I want to make sure we're solving this problem, and that we're either putting in a redundant line, which is looping it, or putting, upsizing the system. It's up to the engineers that we've hired to actually look at this, and I want to make sure that we're doing it correctly. I know Terry's coming out of his seat because he wants to talk.
For the record, Wade Conlon, Hanson Professional Services. I did not say my name, so.
I mean, I've been bringing this
Thank
up
you.
for the past 4 or 5 years, so that's why I'm bringing it up one more time.
Do we want to address this question?
Because no one's really told me except we're addressing it.
For the record, Terry McHugh, Director, Environmental Services Department. So during the earlier design phase, I worked with Jean. We engaged Reese Engineering to conduct a water master plan. And in general, the plan for the water is to maximize water pressure that's available from Sanford, including looping.
Okay, so all that's being addressed. So for the record, you're telling me this will not be a problem once this complex comes online, and that there's no issues anymore at the jail with fire flow or anything else?
No, that's not what I'm saying. Because
then
it's
what do you-
it's also a function of the pressure that's delivered from Sanford. The work that we're doing on our property maximizes the water pressure available that comes from Sanford, is how I would say that.
Okay, I don't feel comfortable yet.
Sounds like to me, we're not going to know until the time comes we get water supply, and we're going to have to address it at that point.
So if we're addressing our own needs and pressure to our complex, and we are at the will or whim, if you will, of Sanford, then it certainly would be incumbent upon us to get intimately involved with their process to ensure that the concerns that Commissioner Delory has will be addressed while they're working on the project. And Terry, do we have that? Are we doing that?
Yes.
Do we have that in writing?
That we're working with them to
No,
explore.
that they're going to assure us that we have,
No, we do not have that in writing.
can we get something in writing from someone?
I'm not sure that they do that.
I'm going to say,
Okay, but you're speculating. So therefore, the question is, could we try to get that? And the answer should be, the
Yes,
county
we
manager
can-
will support it. And the answer is, yes, we'll try to get it. Not, I don't know if we can.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that clarification.
You are welcome. Commissioner Lockhart.
Well, just piggybacking on Commissioner Delarie's concerns, would it be helpful to approach the city of Sanford from a partnership perspective, recognizing that what we're asking them to do may be just in our interest, or I just don't ever want another municipality partner of ours to think that we're laying down the gauntlet and
I didn't say
saying,
that.
no, I'm not, but, different words mean different things to different people. We want to partner with them to help improve the system in the area, and how could we do that?
And we have had communications with the city, and they do have some challenges that's unique to them regarding the pressure set points that they can operate their water plants.
And I think what Commissioner Delarey is asking, and tell me if I'm wrong, is he wants that memorialized in writing, that relationship that we're working on.
Thank you for clarification.
The second clarification.
I just want to make sure that whatever year down the road, if someone's saying, why didn't we think about increasing the water pressure because we can't do it, there is a paper trail that says something. That's what I'm looking for.
Well, I will say, we won't bring a project to the board for approval any phase at 5 Points if we can't get sufficient pressure for water use and for fire protection. So that is a nut that we'll have to crack, and just as any other developer would with the utility provider.
I realize that, County Manager, but at the same time, I need something that I can say to the voters. This is a paper trail that says that we had a paper trail that says that this should be able to work. I've not yet seen that.
Understood.
Because I've been bringing this up, how many years now? A while.
So we now have a course of action. Okay. No, maybe we don't have a course of action.
Please.
For the record, John Shea, Public Works Director, County Engineer. The information you're asking for it, yes, we do. Because what we did, we hired Reed Engineering to evaluate the existing system and provide us with master plan for the build-out for the 5 plant. And they did that. That report is a part of 5 plant. And we provided it to the consulting and a part of the construction to upgrade that system as recommended by Reed. Now, for the building for fire protection, they will take whatever the build out of the system, and they will provide fire protection based on the future upgrade. Now, some of the building may need a pump for the fire protection.
I get that.
But you do have something in writing. To me, it is a report, signed and sealed, provided by Reed, as here's our current assessment, and here's what you need for the future build-out. And based on that, we provided, included in the development of the 5 plant, and included part of the design build project.
It's in the CGL report, correct?
No, this is after.
After?
Yes, this is Reed Engineering, okay? But it is a part of the annex building, when that first phase, which is the annex building, the parking garage, and the chillers system, and also the upgrade of that water system on 5 plant, which are required to install, go under 1792 with 12-inch water line and connect. There's another to connect to Stanford. And there are some upgrades throughout the 5 plants. That's what I consider it as the documentation. Unless you...
John, I agree with you, but I'm glad you're presenting it, because that's why I was asking the question, to put this all on the record. So thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
On that issue, no. Thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, the other issues that I have, which is the chiller efficiency, the condensate return, the tower recovery, and the jail chiller, those are the 4 issues I think that we should actually have some cost analysis to make sure that any and all of these should be addressed at the appropriate time. I believe thank you, Mr. Dredge, for the, if you think so. I'm only looking for information.
On the roll.
Should have come up in the beginning, John.
For the chiller, what we have is the budget for the chiller for the jail. We have to replace, we have the boiler. We do not have in the budget to change a chiller in the jail. We have to change the boiler.
Can you stop right there, John? The reason why I'm asking is because when we did the budget for the sheriff's department, in his budget is the chiller.
I looked at it before, and there is a boiler. One of the boiler, we have 2 boilers. One of the boiler in bad shape, and we have a budget in it. And also, as of call it phase 1A or phase 1B, with the courthouse renovation, we will be part of it. We will be evaluating the jail and also the safety building to see what it'll take to connect it to the chillers, to the center. That is will be included in our 5-plant projects. So it is already included. But we do not, we changed 1 chiller for the jail in 2019. But we do not have one to change it for this coming year.
Okay, I was informed wrong now. Thank you.
Commissioner Delory, do you have anything further?
Just those other 3 items then.
And they...
Has to do with water and efficiency.
And all of them will be addressed as we go along, as well as what we've just heard today. Okay, thank you very much. Is there anybody else on this report concerning the sustainability update? Anybody else? Commissioner Lockhart and then Commissioner Zimbauer.
Well, I'd just like to say thank you again for the time that we spent together reviewing this was really fantastic and helpful. And there are some members of our board who are very engineering and some members of our board who are not. So to learn through this process and have a team that can help those of us who don't live this in the day-to-day world of our lives is very helpful. And I feel, just from a common sense perspective, I feel very comfortable with the suggestions that you're making and the route that you're taking. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Zimbauer?
Thank you.
We look very different.
I have a little bit different view than perhaps my fellow commissioners, and I appreciate the work that Hanson's done, and I think the work that Hanson done is good work. Sustainability. What is the meaning of sustainability? What does that mean to Hanson, sustainability?
Sustainability has a number of different definitions when you look it up. Part of it is using the minimum amount of resources that you can to create and conserve. It also gets into the resiliency function, so that you're fixed, so that you're able to sustain and then recover after an event. There are a lot of different definitions, but those are two of them.
So my disappointment to share with my fellow commissioners are, we paid a company $1.4 million initially to build a master plan, put things together. We've got a design build team in place. We've got all these things, and now we're just learning that we have too many chillers figured out for this process. It was my belief and wishes and understanding, and I think that it was mentioned a little bit in Hanson's presentation, a little bit too late to the party to really make a dent on this first process at 5 Points, to really get any evolving technologies as it relates to sustainability and resiliency. And I've resigned myself to that fact because it's too late to turn back the hands of time. I am a little disappointed that we have a consultant that we are paying that basically, for no other practical purposes, is basically reviewing engineering that should have been done by the design team, should have been done by those other individuals who were part and parcel of this. We're just now learning. And I thank Hanson for that. I don't fault Hanson for that at all. But our question becomes is, how are we just now learning through our resiliency and sustainability experts that we shouldn't need the chillers that were proposed originally for the project? And had we not brought them in from a resiliency and sustainability standpoint, what would have happened, I guess is my question. I see a hand.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can I address that? Because I know that in one of the briefings that I had, I believe that the design team, which was the people that I met with, was Wharton Smith, HKS, and TLC, I believe it was. They were and are looking at this to figure out what is the best combination of chillers. I don't know what their final answer was, but when I had my presentation on the third floor, this was one of the discussions that they brought to me, and I did not bring it up to them. So I felt pretty comfortable that they were going to address it at the final documents. At least that was my interpretation.
Sure, and I appreciate that.
Also, PMA? PMA, excuse me.
So that
they were also involved there, too.
That's exactly where I'm headed. So we have PMA involved as owner's rep. We've spent all this money with CGL. We've got a design build team in place, which has subcontractors, engineers, architects, and all those individuals. Are we duplicating services here? Meaning, if Hanson is going to be the individuals who are going to be looking at these types of matters, are we duplicating? Are we buying things that we don't need? Are we overbuilding? Is this not a smart thing to do? Is that something that our design team should have been catching or PMA should have been catching? I just need clarification who's in what silo and whose responsibility is what. It was my opinion, based on the RFPs, the RFQs that went out, that we were looking at a sustainability and resiliency contract on what scope of work Hanson is doing. That said, I'm also aware that it's a little tough for them to do a lot of sustainability and resiliency on a process that's already 3/4 of the way down the highway. So that's all I want for clarification from that aspect.
Chairman?
I guess I wanted clarification first before we moved on. I don't want, unless,
Well, I was actually going to ask for the clarification, and as you're walking up, just offer a perspective.
okay, go ahead, please.
Coming into this with no history on it, there is question in my mind around the timeline, right? The sort of the order of operation. That being said, and I think you've done a good job at saying, you know, I've resolved myself to that because it is gone. You have to resolve yourself to that. But there is also the notion that on a project of this scope, that when you bring different expertise to the table, and I do view the expertise that we have on the team to be different, that there is going to be some overlap. So they're not complete silos. They're going to bleed into each other in some respect. And so I would love to hear your perspective and tell me if I'm off base.
Can do. So I'm Dan Sellers with PMA. So our design build team brought up the issue of the cooler capacity some time ago. In their analysis, there wasn't enough load on it. It may have been okay back in the master planning days when the EOC was in the same project, but when that was moved off in the future, only having the annex is not enough. So they told us that. Our peer review consultant AEI also echoed that, and then Hanson echoed that. So we're on the same page. So what we've done is we had a meeting last week, and we updated and added to and revised the spreadsheet that Hanson started. So our design build team is good enough to play outside their sandbox and act on the master planning level, not just our little part, to think about the whole scheme here. And what it came down to is that we only need one chiller right now.
Right.
If you add one for redundancy, that's two. So Joe Abel and John Dredge agreed with this approach that we should buy what we need, and then when another building comes on that trips that lever, more demand, then you buy the other chiller, and then it's new, you have a brand new warranty, you haven't been spending years trying to keep it from, seizing up. So it totally makes sense. So I completely agree with what you're saying, and that's how we've ended up.
And I've got that, and I appreciate that explanation. My question's a little bit different than that, is that with your clarification, this was already on your radar, on the design build team's radar.
Yes.
So now we have it on a third person's radar. So my only question is, if we have a design build team that says the same thing that Hanson is saying, if we have an owner's rep saying the same thing that Hanson is saying, before Hanson is even saying it, do we really need three contractors to be telling us the same thing? I'm looking at it from a tax dollars perspective. And I think what I'm hearing is, we already knew that there was an overabundance of chillers in the process. Had already been brought up by the design team and as our owner's rep. You knew that because the EOC coming offline and so forth. Hanson's aware of it because they've looked at it and done their due diligence. So my only question is, who's in what lane, or are we vetting this process three different entities on each and every issue that comes across? My understanding and support for an owner's rep was to be looking out for the best interest of this county and its taxpayers as our representative of this board, and identifying things that were not correct, maybe things that could have been done better, or alternatives, those kinds of things, as well as keeping track of the process.
Yes.
But we've hired a sustainability and resiliency contractor who's now telling us that the chillers, which our design team already knew and our owner's rep already knew, are oversized for the process. That's what I'm having trouble grasping.
Commissioner, if I might, I'm going to ask the county manager maybe to clarify some of these things so we can
Sure.
kind of get out of this quagmire here.
Yeah. No, I could move on at any time.
No, I want the answer, or at least a comment.
I'm going to roll back a little bit to give you an answer. The approach to this project has been a little unusual over the last several years. And if you'll recall, we had a public-private partnership proposal, and then the board decided it wanted to do a master plan, which I think was absolutely the right way to go. You brought on CGL to do that. The board also decided that it really wanted a quick start on phase one to consolidate the courts. So we did a very expedited sort of process. We rolled into the master planning the basis of design so that we could quickly get into a design build phase for phase one. That's unusual. So we could quickly move into the design build phase. We did that. At the tail end of the discussions about the master plan is when the discussion of sustainability came in. So that came late to the party. And then there was a lot of discussion about exactly what this board wanted to see from a sustainability consultant. It took a little bit of time to get the scope together. If you'll go back and look at the scope, you'll see the scope is far more expansive than 5 points. There are a lot of things that we expect Hanson to look at. 5 points is really a very small part of that.
Correct.
So it was an add-on sort of to the bigger overall county sustainability plan. But it was also clear to us that the board wanted us to have Hanson involved in 5 points. So they're involved in 5 points, and one of the things they do is look at chillers. One of the things our owner's rep, which you would absolutely have in any project of this size, is to look at chillers. It's also what the design build team looks at. So as Commissioner Herr said, you're going to have some overlap in some of these. I know that Commissioner Zimmer, you're disappointed that they didn't get into the process earlier, and ideally they would have, but I think it's just a circumstance of timing and really trying to, this board has been very aggressive in getting this project moving, and rightfully so, because you have been able to get momentum on 5 points, a project that's been discussed a lot in the county. But I think there have been some things that have occurred and some timelines that occurred that may not have occurred if there hadn't been an urgency in getting phase one started. So we really did try to sequence things in a way that met the time expectations that the board had, but it really was a process that was disjointed at times. But I think we're in a great place, and I think we are very lucky to have a fantastic design build team, a great owner's rep, and a sustainability firm on board. I think we're going to get a really good product for the taxpayers. And I think the rest of the 5 points planning, you're really in very good shape, and I think it'll flow a little more smoothly because we have a bigger plan and we're off point on it. So I think there are a number of circumstances as to why we landed where we landed, and I think that it's great to have as many eyes on such an important project as possible, and I do think that the board should expect there probably will be more overlap as we move forward, but I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing for the community. Just for what it's worth.
Commissioner Zimbauer, you good?
Good. Move on.
Commissioner Delory?
I was going to say something very similar to what the county manager said, but I'll just add that in order to do the full project, which is going to have to happen at some point, because that's central to it.
Yes.
So they did it the right way. They have to.
It's plug and play.
It's a plug and play system. It's a better way to put it. My only concern is that, I think, to just do some cost analysis on chill efficiency, can we afford more chillers? That's an easy thing to do. That's not a big issue from a design team. That's more just more money from us, so to speak, the county, as well as the condensate capture system, as well as the cooling tower recovery. I believe Mr. Dredge answered my question about the jail. Thank you, Mr. Dredge. And Mr. Dredge answered my question about the water pressure. Thank you, Mr. Dredge, again.
To answer part of your question about the chillers, excuse me, we actually added a couple options on the chillers to make them more efficient and last longer.
Because, we're going to be living with these chillers for a number of years, as we all know. I just want to make sure that we're affording the most effective bang for the buck that we can afford.
Yes.
That's all I'm asking. That's it. I'm good.
Commissioner Hur, you're good?
All good.
Commissioner Lockhart? All right, well, thank you very much, gentlemen. We appreciate the report and look forward to future reports. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We are now at the point that we have Scott McIntyre, our investment advisor with Hilltop Securities. I believe he's going to join us through cyberspace in Austin, Texas. And I see Tim coming up. So, Tim, why don't you begin the presentation?
And I'm on. Can you guys hear me?
I can.
Okay, terrific. And Tim, let's go to
Speak
the
up a
first
little
slide,
bit,
events
though,
driving the
Scott.
market.
Scott, could you please speak up just a little bit?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me any better?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The debt ceiling impasse, growing problem. You guys might have read this morning that Janet Yellen she's the Treasury Secretary. She was zeroed in on October 18th as the date that the government is going to run out of money to pay its bills. This is political theater, but it promises to be really disruptive to the financial markets over the next 3 weeks between now, obviously, and the 18th of October. The thought is, and I don't think there's really much of a possibility, but the thought is there could be a default where the Treasury is not able to pay its bills. But I will tell you that despite the fact that this is political theater, the Democrats have the ability to be able to do this on their own. And the reason they're not going to go full scale forward on that is the idea that it could create some issues for them in the midterms. So this is going to go back and forth probably right up until midnight, the due date, before it does ultimately get solved, and we do push forward on what will be a reconciliation bill passed strictly along party lines, raising the debt ceiling. But between now and then, there's going to be a lot of nervousness in the market. We're already starting to see some of that. In terms of the effect on the county does have a Treasury maturity on the 15th before this, which is good. And there isn't another Treasury maturity until the end of November. So I think you're out of harm's way as far as that's concerned. And I really can't anticipate where this is going to go, to be honest with you, but it is very disruptive. Obviously, the virus cases have affected the markets and have affected the economy. The good news is that the 7-day moving average of new virus cases seems to have peaked about 3 weeks ago. Almost, in every spot across the nation, but certainly on the nation as a whole, and it's generally moving downward. GDP pace for the third quarter, after a fairly strong consumer spending number, the GDP for the third quarter looks better than it was. Third quarter growth has been hampered by the virus spread, but it seems like things are getting back on track. My thought is that the debt ceiling issue is settled without doing too much damage to market confidence. GDP growth should pick up in the fourth quarter, and assuming that consumers have goods to buy, which is a big assumption here, that the 2021 holiday season should be pretty solid. It should be the best in years. So we'll cross our fingers and look forward to that as far as merchants are concerned. Labor market shortages. This is really, really crazy, but job openings set another record. They're delayed, so we got the July numbers, but there's almost 11 million posted job openings. And at the same time, job gains, payroll gains, had slowed pretty significantly. There were less than 250,000 jobs added to company payrolls. So if you think about the idea, there's 11 million jobs posted, and during the month of August, there are only 250,000 jobs added to payroll. It's nuts. In fact, to me, this is an exercise in crazy making to think that the Fed is focused in any way, shape, or form on job growth. The jobs are here. And then finally, the Fed did, at their last meeting last week, they signaled a more hawkish stance. Right now, they're buying $120 billion per month in treasuries and mortgage-backed securities. The idea behind that, and that's quantitative easing, the idea is to provide market liquidity. And of course, we're awash in liquidity right now, so it's long overdue that they begin to taper back those purchases. And what they announced the other day is that that taper is likely to begin in November, and they expect to end it by mid-2021. So that's less Fed buying. That's more securities in the market that the Fed is not buying. And in theory, longer rates especially should increase. And they have quite a bit over the course of the last several days. As far as an interest rate increase, right now we're sitting effectively at zero. That interest rate increase isn't going to happen until the tapering is completely done. And then after it's done, the Fed is likely to sit on the sidelines for a while and see how the market reacts to no further purchases. So right now, the earliest that anybody expects to see the first rate increase is probably late 2022, December 2022. More likely, it's several months after that, not well into 2023, but early in 2023. So I'll keep you posted on that. The next slide, Tim, is employment, and I will keep this fairly brief. As I mentioned, there were only 235,000 jobs added to payrolls in August. That was well off the expected median forecast of more than 3 times that. What I picked up in the report was that there were 5.6 million Americans that said they were unable to work in August because their employer closed or lost business due to the pandemic. So the unemployment rate actually fell, and that makes a really good headline. It was the lowest in 17 months, but the unemployment rate only includes people who are actively looking for work, and a lot of folks are not yet. That will change. The federal unemployment aid ended on Labor Day, and this is widely expected to push more Americans into resuming their job searches. So the September employment report, which is due a week from this Friday, is very important. People are going to watch really closely to see if job growth really kicks up, and we'll keep a close eye on that. As I mentioned before, total job openings close to 11 million. That's actually the highest on record by a long shot, and it's up from 4.2 million postings at the end of 2021. So it's just kind of exploded. The next slide is retail sales, and I'll keep this fairly brief. They were much better in August than people expected. Retail sales were up 0.7% in August. The expectation was for a 0.7 drop. Auto sales, within that number were down by 3.6%, not because there wasn't demand for cars, but because there aren't any cars to buy. Restaurant sales were flat. That has everything to do with the Delta variant. Otherwise, the headline number would have been even higher. So, really good news as far as the consumers are concerned. They have a lot of dollars in their pocket. One thing that probably had a big impact on August sales was the mid-July launch of the new child tax credit. So there were payments in account made to parents of over 60 million kids 17 years and younger. And that's one of the reasons that I believe that the holiday buying season is going to be very brisk, is because there are a lot of dollars in the pockets. And of course, that all folds into this political debate that's going on right now, with the Democrats providing, lots of dollars into the market, and the Republicans being fiscally conservative, and they're butting heads back and forth. One thing that showed up this morning as I was watching the screens was that consumer confidence just fell to a 7-month low. It's really volatile, but honestly, as we watch all this unfold and wonder what's going to happen, between now and the next 3 weeks, consumers are a little bit worried. It doesn't mean they won't spend, but they're worried. Then going to the current investment choices on page 4, the short end of the market hasn't really moved very much. There aren't a whole much yield there because, again, the Fed is not expected to actually raise interest rates until late 2022 or early 2023, assuming everything goes well between now and then, and that's a long way away. So, the 12-month Treasury bill at 7 basis points is pretty much holding steady. Once you move out on the curve, people want to be compensated for going, beyond that first rate increase. So, we're seeing big rate increases in the 3-year and the 5-year, in the 10-year, but not so much where the county is focused. The county has a fairly short portfolio right now, so you're in good position for the rate increase. Just taking a glance at and this is important, but the banks continue to pay, pretty good rates on full liquidity. So your banks, your QPD banks that you have paying between 17 and 25 basis points for fully liquid money, that means we can sit there until rates increase to the point where it makes sense to leave there. There's also a diminishing, a falling amount that's in your pools, because we use those pools sort of as the purse to pull money. So most of the dollars that are spent by the county come out of Florida Prime, and that Florida Prime balance has fallen, to the point where, at some point we may have to dip into the banks between now and when your property taxes flow in. But those are sort of what the choices are. If we go to the next slide, I will tell you, it's not really upcoming anymore, but you had an Axiom Bank CD that was maturing. It comes off at a pretty nice yield. We talked to Axiom Bank, pushed Axiom Bank a little bit. They're willing to do a 2-year CD at 50 basis points, which is actually pretty advantageous. So the clerk's office we've decided that it makes sense to roll that over at 50. Obviously, compared to what I showed you before, that's a very good rate. The nice thing about CDs is they're not subject to market price volatility, so we don't have to worry about an unrealized loss, in the event that the Fed stepped up things. So that's the plan. Now, the treasuries that are maturing, one within the next couple of days and one on October 15th, those dollars are actually needed by the county for your expenses, so they won't be reinvested. They will, those will be used. Recent purchases to remind you of, we had done a Florida Palm term rate out to May of next year, so fairly short, at 10 basis points. That's really as much as anything else to diversify. It beats treasuries. It's basically, it fixes the rate. It's not knocking the cover off the ball, but we thought that was pretty fair. So what we're recommending here is to take that $20 million Axiom CD, and by the way, we monitor your bank's financials, even though there's a QPD basically guarantee, for lack of a better word, but we also monitor the financials, and Axiom's financials improved quite a bit during the second quarter, so we feel a lot more comfortable, rolling that out. So what I need is a motion to basically implement this roll of the CD, the maturing CD. And that's really all we're asking for, because you are fairly well invested at this point in time. The expectation is that interest rates are going to gradually crawl higher. Monthly expenses, again, are going to be paid from Florida Prime, and as it were, from these maturing securities as well that will mature into Florida Prime. But I do need to ask for a motion there. But before I do, I want to just, Tim, if I could go to a couple other slides just very briefly. That portfolio snapshot, I thought you guys would be a little bit lower at the end of August, but you're still holding it at 47. Part of that is that maturities were late in the month, haven't happened yet. But, as we roll over that 215 into a 50 basis point, then you are going to see that roll down to a 42. We may get to the point here before too long, though, where that's in essence a floor. If we expect that rates are going to gradually move higher, then we may have seen the worst. And then finally, I just want to mention again the benchmark comparison on the next page. There will be a time, I can promise you, sometime within the next year or two maybe, where certainly the benchmarks move higher and the portfolio yield moves lower, and this compresses. But for the time being, you have a lot of securities that were purchased, CDs that were purchased, for lack of a better word, earlier on. There's still 270 on the book. There's that 215 on the book. There's another above 2%. There's some treasuries that have pretty high yields. So they're bolstering things at this point and keeping that yield, reasonably high compared to some of the other options. So going back, I do need a motion to implement the roll of this CD. I do want to mention that last year you guys did give yourselves
Hey, Scott,
the ability to be able to invest.
Hey, Scott, thank you for your thoroughness.
Scott, I want to thank you for all your hard work with also Hilltop Securities. But, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the recommendation of our financial advisor based on a report submitted here today to direct the clerk to implement the recommendations presented.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Scott, thank you again for the thoroughness of your presentation. We didn't want to interrupt you. Was there any last word that you had?
Oh, yeah, and I'm sorry I got wordy. I do want to say that I intend to be there next month because I think there's going to
We'll
be
look forward to seeing you.
questions potentially.
We'll look forward to
Okay,
seeing
good. Well,
you.
thank you all. I appreciate it, and you guys have a good rest of the day.
Thank you very much, Scott.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, we're going to move along to the bond council discussion from the county attorney's briefing.
It's going to be very brief because I know what's going on. John Stokes, our longtime bond counsel, has retired. Right now, he's on vacation, but next meeting, I plan to bring a contract for your approval with the Nelson Mullins firm. You may recall that when John was out a few years ago, Joe Stanton of that firm did a great job for us on the $67 million refunding. So I will bring that next meeting for your approval, and I'll talk more about John then. Great.
Thank you very much. All right, as I said earlier, we all received the request from the county, or not the request, but the letter of resignation from the county manager. And the fact of the matter is that we all know the county managers leave. This county, it's inevitable. The process, however, is extremely important as we move on to the future. If I'm not mistaken, County Manager, you are, if not one of the longest-serving county managers in this tenure, in your tenure. I know that Commissioner DeLore has been through many of these in the past. I also, both at the county and the state level and at the city level, have been through this. And the one observation in this opportunity, the observations that I've made in this opportunity is that it's important that we have a very smooth transition, that the county manager is the county manager until she leaves, that we move forward in a very organized and professional manner. There is no question that people are researching us as much as we might research others, and that we need to make sure that we're proceeding in a way, in a fashion that is one that we have everything as far as transparent, that we work with our staff, that we assure our staff that there is that everything is going to be fine, and that we are going to look for whatever thing, whether external or internal, the very best option we can find. So my suggestion, as manager, as the county chairman, for the manager thing, is that we get the county manager and her deputy county managers and the county attorney to work together until the next meeting and come up with options for moving forward on a search for both for a interim as well as a search for a permanent replacement as county manager. Commissioner Zimbauer?
I would support that. I think it's important from an optics perspective, not only for the existing staff, but for any candidates that may consider Seminole County, whether it be a wastewater employee, whether it be a county manager, whether it be, for that matter, a custodian in this county, on how we perceive to treat our employees. In my mind, Ms. Guillet was here when I arrived. I know that she has now served going on 7 years, if not, I believe, is the longest serving county manager in this county. I think, in my mind, from a management perspective, she deserves all the respect, all the professionalism given to her as well as her staff to make this as smooth a transition as possible. So I would absolutely support our county attorney facilitating as well with our senior staff on coming up with those plans on how we move forward and bringing that back to this commission as soon as possible or at the next meeting with some options on how to proceed.
Commissioner?
Sure, I would somewhat echo and be a little redundant in some of the comments that are made. We worked together for many years before you were the county manager, when we were both staff members here, and so you have given a significant part of your professional life to this organization, so I want to thank you for that more than anything else. And I also want to congratulate you on putting together an amazing team. I think that you have an executive team here, and we talked about this actually during our strategic planning, talking about succession planning. You have a team that you've built that, whether it was due to your resignation or something disastrous happening, they could pick up the ball and run with it. I'm just so impressed all the time with how much the team around you is able to step in and pick up the ball. So I have a significant amount of comfort in whatever, and I love the idea of the four of you getting together and coming back with a plan, but just so that everyone can know, I think it's important that we give the team that's here the support that we recognize that you all are an incredible team, and even in light of having to move forward maybe without this particular county manager for a little while, you all have the tools that are needed to keep this county moving forward. So I want to give you that encouragement as we go forward. I think that and I just want clarification too from the county manager, or from the county attorney, we're going to trade job descriptions in this conversation. For those of us who, obviously, we can't talk to one another, right? Because we're going to be voting on something that will be coming forward.
Absolutely.
Should we direct our questions, comments, ideas to you in this process?
That would be a very good suggestion, and make sure that, obviously, because of the email system, if you send me questions, make sure that just Nicole and I are copied.
Okay, that sounds great.
Right.
And so, just because I love your suggestion, you will be coming back with the county attorney will be coming back with a recommendation at the next board meeting for what the four discussed?
The county manager,
Okay.
who's still the county manager.
I get that.
I understand that.
I get
But I'm
it.
just saying, my intent is that at the next meeting,
Mm-hmm.
that they will come back with a shared recommendation that she will present to us with options that we would have to proceed for.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you. So Nicole, I remember before you got here, when you first took the position with the county, you were at growth management. Did not know you. To say it's been a pleasure and an honor getting to know you is an understatement. You took that position that now Rebecca has. You made it a department, because I remember back in the days, there was a lot of issues with that department, and you did a lot of phenomenal things with it. And while you were the director of growth management, you were actually doing more than your share of the work with growth management, and the board here at that time said, well, why is she just doing that? She is so much capable. In fact, I wasn't surprised, but I was impressed that not only you were a certified planner, but you're an attorney, obviously. But I didn't know that because I never knew you before. And ran with it. And because there was a lot of things that were happening. In fact, people may not remember this, but during the renewal of the 1 cent sales tax, our county manager at the time resigned. Remember that? Jim Hartman. Jim Hartman had another opportunity, just like this county manager, Nicole. She has another opportunity. So it's not out of the question that when you have good people, people do seek out them.
Yep.
And they give them other opportunities, as our present county manager, Nicole, is taking another position with the San Fernando Airport. So I not only wish you well, but I want to thank you for all the hard work that you've done. And looking forward to continue working with you as your position unfolds with the San Fernando Airport. In fact, A couple people from the San Fernando Airport, after you announced it, actually called me up and said, I guess you're upset with us. I says, no, I'm not upset with you. It's actually a compliment that you're actually seeking out people that we actually have. So to me, that says that we made the right decision back when we made that decision to make you county manager.
As you say, people make professional choices. It's appropriate that those choice words that you just made, Commissioner. We don't want to suggest, though, that this is a requiem for your departure. You still have a lot of work. No, but yours was appropriate, is what I'm saying. I just want to remind her that she's still county manager. She's got a lot of work to do.
Well, and that's where I want to go next, because there is a lot more work to be done. We actually saw fit that when we did hire a county manager like we hired Nicole, we actually put in their contract that they have to give us 2 months' notice, I believe, correct? Just to make sure that a lot of these things don't fall through the cracks. So, Mr. Chairman, I know you talked about how, what the next steps are, but I'm hoping that one of those next steps is actually a transition plan. And I just want, you didn't use the word transition plan, and I would never insinuate that, but I want to make sure that we're actually putting a plan together on that whole next couple of months so that there is full transparency. Not just the board feels comfortable, but the employees feel comfortable, but most importantly, the citizens feel comfortable. And I just want to thank you, Nicole.
No, and thank you for that clarification, because yes, Commissioner, when I suggested for options for moving forward, I meant a full transition plan that I would ask them to put together for us and bring back. At the very next meeting.
Because, Mr. Chairman, there's a couple things that are due, not just to us, to the public, at the end of the year, beginning of next calendar year, that I want to make sure that those are being addressed appropriately.
And the Recovery Act is...
The Recovery Act's one of them.
Yeah.
That's just one of them. It's a big item, but it's one of them.
Yeah. Commissioner Zimbauer, I saw your hands raised.
Yeah, thank you. I would agree. That was my expectations with the option that we will see a transition, plan moving forward. My question really, I think, is more to the county attorney, and I want to be careful how I craft this question, is I tend to be process-driven and contract-driven. I have some serious inquiries about the existing contract and how that contract, A, was facilitated over the 7 years of Ms. Guillet. There are some provisions in that contract that I do not believe this county has been forthright and accommodating. So my question would be is this something that we could facilitate through an exit interview with Ms. Guillet in inquiring what her thoughts are on how she may have been treated under this contract, so that to help at least this commissioner moving forward, whoever that person is going to be who steps into that position, that we ensure the contract is adequate and followed as far as provisions, as far as annual reviews, increases, evaluations, all those things that were not arguably done. How do we best facilitate that? Or are we better just wiping the slate clean and say,
Well, clearly you have the right to ask Nicole all those questions. I would suggest you do it individually, one-on-one, and then at a meeting you can discuss, when we come forward with the transition plan, what you would like to see as a contract with whoever is hired as the county manager.
Okay.
So clearly you have that right to do that.
Okay.
And I think, I can't speak for Nicole, but I know that she would.
Yeah, I'm happy to share whatever information and feedback anybody on the board would like to hear. I will say that I think it is the board's prerogative to decide what you want moving forward, and I'm not sure it's appropriate for me to make suggestions in that respect. It's your prerogative to decide what you want in a county manager, what you might want in a contractual arrangement. So I'm happy to give you any feedback, but I do want to be clear that that is your decision, and I don't want. I want you guys to do that. I don't want to. I don't.
Sure, no.
Necessarily appropriate for
Understood.
me to do that.
Mine is only to explore your impressions of the existing contract during your tenure and what you feel was accommodated versus what might not have been accommodated, what you may have been disappointed in, happy with, those kinds of things, to help at least myself in conversation with my fellow commissioners on a contract moving forward with the county attorney's office. That's all.
Happy to engage in that discussion.
So
Could I ask a question?
Yes, Karen.
Before, I just want to have a little bit of clarification and understanding of what you're asking for. My intention is to focus on a smooth transition and to make sure that all of the good work continues uninterrupted. The other element of this is what you do moving forward as a board with regard to selecting an interim and also a permanent. And again, I think that that's the board's prerogative, and I just want to, I think if the options that are brought forward to you about moving forward and selecting a new county manager, I don't want to give the impression that I'm intervening in that or trying to influence the board in any way. So I just want to make sure that, and let you know that I think that my focus in this process that you're asking for should be on transitioning out and making sure that this incredible team has everything it needs to continue the great work it's been doing. So I want to be clear on what your expectations are, and that's my feedback on my.
Again, I think that to be as thorough as I possibly can in this, I want a plan, with options. For a professional, smooth, seamless transition with interim, and then looking at for interviews and search. And obviously, this board's going to make that decision. But I want you, the county attorney, and your executive team to come together and formalize this so that there's no question that you all have come together and taken into consideration the staff and, as Commissioner Delory said, the short-term things that need to be taken care of, as well as the long-term things that need to be taken care of in this. Commissioner Zimbauer, I saw your hand, then Commissioner Herr.
I was just going to follow up and just say, options for me are many options. I think Mr. Applegate's been through this process previously, understands what some of those options are, and would be a good guide. I think some of our staff have been through this as well. So for me, it would be not only our transition, our interim search, whether it's external, internal, all those options I think we should be weighing up and considering as a board. I'm not looking for the county manager the existing county manager to give us their opinion of who should be certain things or what we should do. Just typically in this organization, I know Commissioner Delory has, been through this 4 or 5 times here and other places. But to give us an overview, I would also like that to possibly consider the range riders out of Tallahassee as another aspect, an asset that we utilize through this process. And I would ask the chair to consider that and let's authorize the chair to reach out to those folks, which are retired county managers who have the ability to look at candidates, look at processes, make recommendations, and vet not only our process, but vet candidates, existing, external, internal, et cetera, et cetera.
And I hope that that's part of what they bring back to us. I didn't want to throw things out immediately and say,
Sure.
This is what I want you to do. I want them to come back with us. But clearly, places like the Florida Association of Counties and other places that have the resources to give us, all that will be, I think will be feted out, if you will, with what we're requesting of the county manager and her senior staff and the county attorney. Commissioner Herr, I saw that you had your hand raised.
So first, I'll start by saying thank you for everything you've done so far to get Seminole County to where it is, and tell you that I think the opportunity that you've taken is really significant in terms of the future of the county. So I couldn't be happier for you, a little concerned for us, because transition is always hard and change is hard. I'm going to answer your question, though, from my perspective, because I'm not 100% sure you really got the answer to the question. I do think you would focus on the transition and the smooth handing off of all of the loose ends that exist in any organization when the CEO moves to another position. I would expect that your C-suite, exceptionally capable group of people, to your credit, would then take the leadership around the notion of how we do this transition and what an interim looks like and what the search looks like and what the long-term looks like under the guidance of Bryant to make sure that we're bringing all of the options together. I personally believe that the folks staying should plan for the future and the folks leaving should plan for the handoff. And I've certainly not been through any county manager transitions, but I've been through more CEO transitions and C-suite leadership transitions than I care to count in my career. And that is always the best outcome, where you get to focus on buttoning up all the stuff that you want to get done, and the team gets to focus on the future that they'll be here to live with and ideally thrive with. If I looked at a vision for us, I would say that the vision is that we look toward the era of empowerment. And I think that we look toward the era, and I'm pointing to us, we look toward the era of empowerment. And that means empowering the county manager to do what they're supposed to do, who empowers the staff to do what they're supposed to do, and we focus on governing. I think this is a tremendous opportunity for us to step up and lead in a different way, and it would be a shame if we didn't take the opportunity to look at this change from a positive perspective.
Okay.
Chairman, I believe you got direction.
Yep, I think we do. Do we need a formalized? You all feel comfortable in what the direction you've been given? Do you need something formalized?
I do. I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're fine.
Okay. With that, everybody had just...
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
if I could just say a couple of words before.
Oh, please. But we're not, this is not a goodbye.
It is not a goodbye, but I do, because you are correct, people are watching. And I do want to say how grateful I am to have been able to be a part of this organization for 11 years. And it has been a privilege to work here alongside the board and this incredibly talented staff. There comes, and I've loved being here, but there comes a time in everybody's life, if you're lucky more than once, where an incredible opportunity is placed in front of you. And that's where I find myself, and I'm very excited about it. I'm very flattered that the airport has asked me to be a part of its mission. And that is the reason that I'm leaving, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that it is because of another great opportunity. My heart is with Seminole County. My family moved here when I was 8. I grew up here, went to school here. I've spent a third of my professional career, as Commissioner Lockhart pointed out, here. I care about this organization, and it is my intent to be as helpful and as I can be in the transition, and to be supportive of this team. It is an amazing team. I take a lot of pride in that, and I'll always be connected. But you are going to continue to do amazing things, and it's in no small part because of the great team that you have. So.
Well, we're very thankful that you've been here with us and that you've been a leader of this team, our CEO, and we certainly appreciate everything you did. You know, I mean, as we all say, county managers have a very difficult job, and it is a stressful job. Very few people stay 26 years like Phil Penland.
Right.
This is a very difficult thing, and we're just happy that you're going to still be with us for this transition, as well as with us in this county as you move forward in your own professional career. And I just got to say, as a personal thing, since I worked with your father for many, many years, I know he'd be very, very proud of you, and I mean that. And,
He is, he's still with us, Lee. He is.
No, I said you're right. You know exactly what I love this, and you guys. I wanted to end this on a little levity because we're all having, so there we go.
Very proud of you.
He is very proud of her, because I know, because I talked to him, but I just want you to know that this is great. You know, I was going to end this on a little levity because I know we're all a little sad, but and also looking forward to the opportunity as we will all have, but I just want to say before we go to the close that the Florida Association of Counties, since we just brought up, has indicated in their thing that today is a National Beer Drinking Day. And all I wanted to say is, thank God we weren't playing a game with chillers being the key word for a drink, or we'd all be out of it right now. And with that, Commissioner Delory, if you cannot join us in the afternoon,
I'll be good today.
Okay, thank you. So you'll be back for the budget? Okay, and we appreciate that you've been here and
our best
been here for
prayers
this,
to your
and our
dad.
prayers to your father, sincerely. And with that, we will recess until 1:30. Thank you.